Okay. And it looks like we're recording now, so I'm gonna proceed with the questions. What is your name?
Brandon Smith,
Brandon Smith. And how old are you?
23,
23. Okay. And where are you physically located?
Bel Air, Maryland.
How many classes in OMS have you taken so far?
Let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6. This is my eighth one, I suppose, over the summer, and then ninth and 10th will be this coming semester.
Okay. And have all of these classes used Piazza for communication?
Yes.
So would you classify yourself then as a Piazza novice or as somewhat of an expert?
I would say that I'm more than just a little bit familiar with Piazza.
Okay. Do you mostly use the in-browser application or the mobile app?
I've actually never tried the mobile app.
Mm-hmm. And when you're working on Piazza, do you usually do it from home, from work, what are your circumstances?
Usually from home when I'm actually trying to do some homework assignment, any kind of schoolwork, reading, anything. Occasionally I'll go on the browser on my phone and check up on various things, but it tends to be at home.
Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say then that, the circumstances that you're in now are pretty much the circumstances that you normally use Piazza in? You're sitting in your room in front of a computer, right?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are you usually multitasking or is all your attention on the task, focused on the task in hand, the task that you're trying to accomplish in Piazza?
So I would say normally I would be multitasking as far as like I said, trying to do an assignment and kind of looking at what the general discussion on that assignment is, of flipping back and forth between the Piazza discussion and maybe the assignment instructions to kind of get a better idea of what the discussion is directed towards. I would say 80% of the time it's multitasking. Maybe 20% of the time I'm actually sticking solely to Piazza to look through the discussion and the general class outlook.
Okay. But when you're multitasking on the computer, or is there other stuff going on? I mean, are you like, I don't know, on an exercise bike while you're doing it? Is there kids running around? Do you have the TV on? Things like that?
No, solely on the computer. Multitasking, like I said, for classwork specifically, not for any kind of external source.
Okay. Do you have one screen or two screens set up?
Two screens.
Two screens. So do you have Piazza open on a separate screen, or do you just switch back and forth between tabs?
It varies. I would say if I'm specifically working on assignment, like I was saying, I would have it on a different screen. So I would be having whatever assignment material on one screen and then Piazza on the other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything distracting going on around you while you're working, or you pretty much have the ability to focus?
No. Besides maybe my dog wanting to be let out, there's pretty much no external distraction.
Okay. And what is your main goal when you're working in Piazza? Like, what is it that you typically do in Piazza?
I would say normally it would be trying to learn a little bit better, like kind of a group learning process. I would say usually I try to see where other people are having problems with an assignment and try to help use that to help myself get through those parts. And once I'm actually through those parts, kind of contribute back with what I found worked in those problem areas.
Okay, so what would be the typical workflow then? Like, if you're saying you have an assignment due, and what would how would you proceed? You sit down to do an assignment, and what's the next step?
So I would sit down, have the assignment open, whatever other materials are necessary for the assignment. Like, for example, this summer, we usually have a VM for the assignments, so have the VM open, have whatever terminals open, basically just start working through the assignment instructions and step by step as I'm going along. If I run into a problem, check Piazza. If people are having a similar problem, look through what they're saying might have worked or what they have tried and didn't work, and basically try to work through it myself based off of the information that's available. And if I get through it, contribute back what I can as far as trying to get other people through that as well. Yeah, basically just an iterative process working through an assignment.
Mm. So you're sitting down, you run into a problem. Do you now search for this particular problem, or do you just read every single post until you hit up on a solution or something related? Like, how do you?
So I will certainly try to search first, and that occasionally gets me something that's pretty relevant. I I would say in terms of the search, it's kind of a hit or miss. Like sometimes it works pretty well. Sometimes, I mean, maybe it's just me not necessarily getting the right keywords that's going to give me the relevant information. But in the cases where the search doesn't help, I would say usually looking at the most recent posts tends to have pretty relevant information because usually, I mean, I'm not waiting till the last day for the assignment. So usually in the week or week and a half prior, there's a pretty focused discussion on whatever assignment it is. So it's not necessarily difficult to find relevant information. In the cases that it might be, using the Piazza tags tends to help a little bit more too, to narrow down the post to whatever specific assignment and then search manually through those.
So when you say Piazza tags, you specifically mean folders, correct?
Yes, the folders.
Okay, so like if there's an assignment folder, then that's what you would be using.
Right.
So are you familiar with any other search options that are currently available in Piazza, like searching by contributor, for instance? And do you find it
I was
useful?
not aware. No, I was not aware.
Okay, what about resolved and unresolved functionality? Do you use that? Like, if the question is unresolved, then do you maybe skip it, or do you try to answer?
So are you saying the post, like the general post itself, or the follow-ups to that post?
Either or. Do you find it useful when you're searching for information?
I would say generally it's pretty useful as far as whether or not it's if it has the little like instructor answer widget or student instruction widget on the post. As far as the follow-up replies, I think that's probably more helpful from an instructor point of view than a student point of view. It kind of helps direct instructors towards those posts which still need some attention.
Mm-hmm.
But from a student point of view, I would say if I've already posted in any thread, I'll favorite that thread. And if there's any unresolved follow-ups, then yeah, I'll look at it. But in terms of the general conversation, usually I'm not going to pay attention to those.
Okay. So then, just to recap, basically you're saying that whenever you're searching for information on an assignment, your first step would be to look at the most recent posts and then filter by folder, and then if you have a specific question, then you would search by keyword.
I would say it's a reasonable summary.
Okay. How do you filter the posts in large class? Like, I know some of the classes it's easier if a class has 100 students, but what about classes that have 400 students, like a class like Kamal? Does your process change, or does it still stay the same?
I would say for the most part, it might. I guess in that case, it's a little bit more directed towards the searching functionality because, I mean, if there's a lot of posts, it's a lot more difficult to certainly manually search through them. So trying the search functionality a little bit longer is usually how I go about it. So I mean, if I don't get a search result from whatever I tried to type in the first time, keep on trying a little bit longer than what I normally would in a smaller class. I think overall the process is more or less the same.
Okay. Do you have any ideas on how the Piazza experience can be improved?
So I don't, well, so in that survey a couple weeks ago, I had a couple points, but I would say the main point of contention as a student is probably a little bit more malleability in the search functionality, um, kind of being able to filter the search a little bit more within the search itself.
Mhm.
But as a student, there isn't too much that I would say needs dire improvement or anything. I mean, maybe some kind of metric to search or filter sort by some kind of like popularity metric, like number of views of the post, or like some kind of voting mechanism. Maybe I'm not sure, but other than that, as a student, it's a pretty easy to use platform, I would say.
And when you say um sorry, you said sort by number of views, right? And what was the second thing?
Some kind of like voting mechanism where students can kind of give more weight to certain posts that they think are important or more relevant to the discussion, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a lot of news aggregators online have some kind of voting mechanism where those are more voted are usually closer to the top in some sorting mechanism. So you can choose to see posts that are more highly recommended or voted on by the community, I suppose.
Okay, I think Reddit has similar
Reddit,
functionality, right?
Hacker News, there's a couple other ones, but yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Anything about search specifically that you think needs improvement?
Um, I don't know that I can think of anything specific off the top of my head. I mean, maybe like, so you can kind of sort by folder, but I'm not positive that you can search within specific folders. So maybe like a checkbox mechanism to select certain assignments that you want to search through when you're actually searching, rather than the entire class history kind of thing. Just a little bit more granularity in the filtering mechanisms for the search, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you very much. I really appreciate your help. I'm gonna stop the video and
Okay.